Kelsey.
I'm Shaman Galley.
And I'm David Keener.
And this is the Hourlings podcast project. We were inspired last week when we were talking about our favorite movies that were created based on novels. So this week, what we're going to do is come up with a list of books that we really wish they would make into movies. It's I had a lot of fun compiling my list. What about you guys?
Yeah.
Well, you guys like always have like thrice as long of a list than I do, and I'm gonna have to catch up and like Google while you're talking. Look at Dave. Look at.
Yeah, I know, it's like crazy. I had to stop myself.
I couldn't find any books.
Stop it.
You know, the weird part is, you know, I just said, okay, what's my, the 10 favorite books, and how many of them have been made into a movie? Well, several of them were, but it took me 2 seconds to come up with my list. So I guess we'll just start off by going around and talk about it. And I'm thinking about bringing up an IMDb to see if, you know, there is any
indications
that they are actually going to do that thing.
That's interesting.
Well, for a couple on your list, yes, they're in the works.
What's that?
For a couple on your list, they're in the works.
Well, one can only hope. And I hope I don't screw it up. Number one on my list is the book The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Robert Heinlein. It's one of my favorite science fiction books. One of the few that I love to read every couple of years. And it still holds up. I just can't believe how much the story has really held up over the years, and has actually been a good inspiration for me as far as in my novels, the talking about, you know, artificial intelligence and things like that. But that's my first pick. A Moon is a Harsh Mistress. I gotta look at IMDb to see if it's coming my way. We were also talking about how with special effects now, the state of them for movies, they can pretty much make anything now. They really has opened the spigot wide open. And even as a TV show or as, you know, streaming service miniseries and stuff like that. When I think about The Expanse, for instance, that was one of my really great books that I love reading, and boom, you know, it's an entire series, and I love that.
Yeah, and sometimes I look at the Hollywood movies, the Hollywood science fiction films that they are making, and I'm like, you spent $200 million on that? You should have just adapted this great book by, pick your favorite author. Especially if it's one of my books.
Amen.
So it looks like The Moon is a Harsh Mistress is not in the works for being made into a movie.
Darn.
Bummer. So Dave, you go next.
All right. I've got Under a Graveyard Sky, which is #1 in the Black Tide Rising series by John Ringo. It is a zombie story with humor. Sometimes the humor dominates more than you might expect, but it's not a typical zombie story. And the reason it's not is because typical zombie follows this story, this plot line that says, all of the authorities are stupid, civilization falls apart, and nothing is left but bands of people competing with each other and zombies to survive. And this series is more about surviving and then rebuilding afterwards. And rebuilding afterwards means putting things like an operational United States back together over the course of the series. It's very cool. It's very science fictional in that it really takes the zombie type story and tries to make it as plausible as possible and plausible with regard to how the world recovers from it. I like it. I think it would make a series of great movies, or I think a great mini series or a streaming series for Netflix or one of the other streaming services.
Yeah, I've read that book and I totally concur. That would make I would rather see it as a mini series. I've been watching the series Halo on Hulu. That's funny. Is it on Hulu? Paramount Plus.
I believe that's HBO Max.
Is it? I don't know where it is. I've got so many streaming services I never know anymore.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I like it a lot. But you know, they could really do a great job with it.
Now you know what the major controversy about that show is, right?
Which show?
Oh.
Halo?
Yeah.
He takes his helmet off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of people are pissed off about him taking his helmet. I don't care. You know, it's a video game.
Oh,
You know?
I think it was a major faux pas.
No, I don't think so. There's actually a series of books that were written about the Halo games, including Master Chief and how he grew up and how he was trained as a kid and stuff like that. And so I've already basically read fiction that is basically canon that describes him as a person and not just somebody who's always wearing a suit. So that doesn't bother me at all.
But did he ever have his helmet off in the covers or pictures or anything in the book?
Not on the covers, but in the books, sure, certainly.
I don't know. Neither of you actually played Halo, so I don't know how much room you have to stand on.
Hey, it's not a requirement to have played Halo to enjoy the science fiction of it.
Yes, but to weigh in on this canon versus non-canon, I don't
I
know.
would remind you, it's largely inspired by Larry Niven's Ringworld series,
Yeah,
Yep.
true.
which I have read.
So Shay, what's your first one?
All right. Yeah, I don't think you guys are going to know any of mine, but that's okay, you know, because we have a little bit of a, you know, YA middle grade interest over here that maybe isn't always shared. But mine's a YA novel called Sweep by Kate Tiernan. And I think it'd be better as a series than a movie. But I like it because it's like an action-y romance with witches using an actual religion, which is Wicca. I think it's interesting because a lot of witch series and witch movies, even with like teen witches and young witches, they don't actually specify like what religion they're pulling from. They're just kind of practicing. And I think it was very unique to have a series that actually draws upon Wicca itself as the basis for the witches. I guess you could call it like the Da Vinci Code of Wicca. You know, it's still fictionalized, of course, but has a lot of real elements. Very well written, and it's a series. So it'd be serial, and it'd be cool to see it on screen. That's my pick.
Cool. What makes you? What is the part that makes you think it would be cool?
They had some very cool scenes of like circles that they're doing, like of the rituals, and I think that'd be cool to see that on screen. But just the constant like plot twists and turns and characters coming in and out, and would just make for a really great, like I can see them doing episodes and just having cliffhanger endings and go to the next one and next one.
So you would envision it like a mini series as opposed to just a one-off, one and done movie?
Yeah, definitely like a mini series. Because it's drama. It's developing relationships and developing romance and betrayal and all that stuff.
Is it just one book or is it a series?
No, it's a series.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I think you did say that. Apparently, apparently I missed that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with special effects, magic and witchcraft and things like that are a lot better now. Have you guys watched Wheel of Time?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one that they've made. I love how the magic is depicted in there, and it's great special effects, great locations that they can make via CGI. It's really great. So that could be a really fun series. So my next one up is yet another classic, one of my favorite books, and it's Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. Now let's look that one up.
No, that's going to be made into a movie. You don't even have to look it up.
Really?
Directed by Denis Villeneuve, the guy that directed Dune.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
So no, that's already in the works.
Except I can't spell rendezvous.
Rendezvous.
I'm back. I froze for a second. For all of our viewers, I'm traveling right now, and so I'm in a room in New York that doesn't have super great Wi-Fi. It's not my home headquarters, so forgive my freezing up.
Well, so far from here, it doesn't. I haven't sensed you freezing up.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, it does have an entry on IMDb, and you're right about Denis Villeneuve, the director. And it's got zero details.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So that's another one of the books that I've read over and over again, and I really love the scientific premises in there, the way they could deal with special effects, and the near future technology that would be applied, I presume, in the movie. That could be really, really, really awesome. So I'm really excited about that. So that's the first win. I called it. So David, what's next for you?
So my next is a little book called Dream Park by Larry Niven and Stephen Barnes. From about 20 plus years ago, maybe 25 years ago. The premise is that there's a Disney-like park that uses holograms and computer effects and all kinds of stuff to basically simulate 3D environments. And they do it for all kinds of theme park type reasons, but they also have a league that runs games. It's a big thing worldwide. And there's a grudge match being held at Dream Park. So it's all about Dream Park and hosting this big game with live action players, with all these special effects and stuff. So there's things to be done in the game, and there's also a murder that happened. And they believe the murderer is one of the game players. So they send in a security guy to be one of the players to see if he can figure out during the game who the murderer is. So it's back and forth between the game, real life, and the murder. It's a tour de force. It's really good. I think it would make an excellent movie if it was done well or crisply enough, or it would make a Dynamite miniseries.
Cool. Yeah, there's all kinds of special effects that I've seen that's kind of related. Did you see Ready Player One?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of the real life, game life kind of plot scenario with that too. And that was a lot of fun. So yeah, sign me up. I'll go see it.
And Ready Player One's a pretty good reference for it because it really does go back and forth. And, after a while, you're like, one world feels as real as the other one, which is quite an accomplishment, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Shay, what's up?
You guys might know this one. I know you know the author.
If you're going to say Harry Potter, they've already been
Very good. No. Shaman by Kim Stanley Robinson. I know you guys know that author.
Yep.
I think it would make a really great movie. I read it a long time ago. Enjoyed it. It's about a coming of age story about someone who's trained to become a shaman, and it takes place during sort of like the Ice Age era. And I think it would be an amazing movie because I'm just imagining the cinematography being very close to like The Revenant, with just beautiful sprawling shots, glaciers, mountains. And I don't know that I've ever seen a movie made that I mean, I've never seen any movie, I'm sure there's some out there, but any ones that have come to light that are well acclaimed, that are set in like, that era of human history. In fact, the only ones I've seen that I like are animated, so I guess that doesn't count.
Check out a movie called Alpha.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but I think if they did that well, it could be really beautiful, a really beautiful piece of cinema.
I'll confess, I like most of Kim Stanley Robinson's work. I have not read that one.
Okay.
And I can't read that one right now because I am working on a novel called Shaman, set in a post-apocalyptic, coming out of an Ice Age era.
Same title?
I can't afford to read it for fear of accidentally, subsequently stealing something from Kim Stanley.
Same title, Dave?
Well, the title might change, but that's my working title right now.
But that's my pick, my second pick.
Cool. Okay, now my next pick is yet another one of my favorite books. Is Neuromancer by William Gibson. This book was very, very fundamental for me. I mean, it's very, it's a cornerstone of my love for science fiction. William Gibson in this book was the first occurrence of the term cyberspace. And the story that's developed in it, like the one Dave was just talking about, part of it occurs in the real world, part of it occurs in cyberspace. And it's got a lot of action, adventure, hacking stuff. It's got a lot of adult themes and adult action, adventure in the thing. It could be a really great R-rated movie. It would really piss me off if they just like homogenized it down to nothing, because they had rampant drug use and prostitution and sex and violence in that book, which is, my favorite. And so that's my pick, is Neuromancer. Dave, hit it. What's up?
It's a book from 1974 that I read when I was a kid for the first time. It's called Ice Rigger, and if I can perhaps show the full cover, it is about a spaceship that crash lands on a planet that is basically engulfed in an alien planet engulfed in an ice age.
It's a monoplanet? Is that what you're saying? It's
not a monoplanet, but it is largely ensconced in an ice age. The human port on the planet, the Starport, is unfortunately on the other side of the world, and it is an inhabited planet with an alien species at sort of a barbaric level, and they have now crash landed in the middle of a war, and have to figure out how to survive, and have to figure out how to build whatever transport they're going to need to get home. But first, they have to win a war. Well, first they have to make friends with some of the natives, and then they have to figure out how to win a war, and then they have to figure out how to get home. It's a very cool book. I like it a lot. I think it would make an awesome movie or an awesome limited series. It was also followed by 2 sequels, so there's a potential for a couple extra seasons as well. So that's Ice Rigger by Alan Dean Foster. Can't go wrong.
All right, I got one more, and then you guys got to duke it out yourselves, I guess, until we talk about our own books, which I could always talk about all day. But the other one is, you're not going to know it either. It's a middle grade fantasy called Once Upon a Marigold by Gene Ferris. And really loved this book when I read it as a teenager. It's a fantasy romance, but it's very much like a fairy tale, like a classic fairy tale feel, castles, princesses, all that stuff. But what I love about it is they just have a cast of rather awkward characters, like a troll who's the dad of the hero, a very endearing king, just very sweet characters. I think it would make a good kids movie, and maybe not appealing to hardcore sci-fi and fantasy fans like you guys, but this classic fairy tales, I find them to be very comforting. I want to see more of them. I think we've kind of moved away from them in media, and I would like to move back to that, but that could just be me being nostalgic.
Yep, I have not read that. Have not heard of it.
Okay, well, there you go.
Cool. All right, my next pick. Yeah, I decided on the last 3 that I had selected to not go with, the classic science fiction stuff that my tendency would be to go and pick. This is a book called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. It's kind of time travel story or a dimension travel story. It's very kind of cautionary tale. It's got really great character development and really great stories in there. It's about this one woman who she's disappointed by her life, and I can't give any spoilers, but she ends up in this place between life and death called the Midnight Library, and she gets to pick a different life for herself, and she gets to any decision she wanted to make differently. She can do that, and she can go and live out that life until she decides not to. And it's a really excellent book that was very surprising to me and very, very original. And it would be great for a one and done movie. Very cinematic. It would be one of those classic things where you could have the same actors playing variations of their characters in many ways. It's a very brilliant book, and I would love to see that be made into a movie. And on IMDb, it says that it's categorized as in pre-production.
There you go.
Categorized as in development.
I have not even heard of it.
It's a great. It's not science fiction particularly. It is science fantasy. I don't know. It's just weirdness. It's
Well, I mean, I read more than science fiction. I read.
yeah, I know. It is a great book. I really enjoy the book.
No.
I finished reading it. It's one of those books you're pissed off when you're done reading it. I made my wife read it right away because I had to have somebody to talk about it with, and she loved it too. So that's my pick. I would just love to see that be made into a movie. That'd be awesome.
All right. My next one is called The Privilege of the Sword. So I decided to dip away from SF into fantasy. This is by Ellen Kushner, by the way. It's not, I mean, it's fantasy, but there's no magic in it, but it feels like it's a fantasy. The premise is that Catherine is a young lady of noble descent, and she's figuring she'll come in from the countryside and be introduced to society and eventually secure a suitable marriage for her family. Unfortunately, her uncle, the patriarch of the family, is the Mad Duke Tremontaine, and he has other ideas for her, including teaching her how to use the sword. Things get crazy. There's lots of skullduggery and intrigue and romance and bloody sword fights, and it's a pretty cool book. I've read it 3 or 4 times now. It's like coming home to an old friend when I read this again. It really is a solid book. I think it would make a good movie, if maybe a little bit long, or again, it would be a decent limited series. There's enough material there to stretch it out over, say 6 or 7 episodes.
Cool. Shay, have you Googled up anything?
Yeah, I might have mentioned this book before, even in the last episode maybe, but I really love Tooth and Claw. Who's the author of that again, Dave?
Joe Walton.
Yeah.
That's a worthwhile, she's a good writer.
Really, really love that one. So yeah, I think it'd be a good movie. I mean, it'd be like the Downton Abbey of dragons. And I don't know how they would do the CGI believably. It'd be almost cooler if they could find a way to do like some live action. Well, I guess you couldn't.
Again,
Jurassic Park.
I come back to what we were talking about before. I think today that they could do the special effects for anything. This is like a comedy. That's like a comedy of manners with dragons.
And I still have a fan letter out to her, and she still has not replied. So if you're watching, Joe, Please
Yeah,
check your inbox.
the CGI associated with dragons, fabulous. Game of
Yeah.
Thrones, the dragons in that. Oh my
True.
God, that was like
Yeah,
so
And
real. It was amazing.
If you
They
can
could
do
do it then.
dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, you can do dragons now.
You know, one set of books that I didn't have on my list that needs to be on the list is the Dragon Riders of Fern. Talk about a mini series that would go on for 20 seasons. That'd be awesome. I love that. But that wasn't my next pick because I was picking more esoteric stories.
But it's
for my
still a
last-
worthwhile series. In fact, Peter Jackson has tried to get that going a few times, and it hasn't quite. Hollywood is aware of it, but has not quite made it happen yet.
Make it happen, Peter Jackson. Do that. He's just the guy to do it, too.
Well,
So my next actual pick is a book that is book one in the series, but only book one is out so far. This is yet another book I love so much and made my wife read it right away, and she loved it as much as I did. It's called The Wizard's Butler by Nathan Lowell. And it's about this dude. It's exactly what the title says. This guy gets hired as a butler for this elderly man who his daughter says, look, he's a crazy old man. He thinks he's a wizard. You know, you just got to be patient with him. You got to take care of him. If you can stick it out for a year, I'll give you this ginormous bonus. So please be patient and, you know, take care of him and stuff. And the slow discovery of this guy who was hired more because he was a former soldier, you know, a badass in the military, and he becomes this butler, and adventure ensues, and a lot of cool shit happens, and he's got this really amazing house, and I'm thinking, oh my God, it would just be like so awesome. The depictions of the house, the way that it was. I don't know. Have you guys seen the miniseries Lock and Key?
mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, they got a cool house in that one too.
It's on Netflix.
But this house would be even more fabulous. Every time the guy turns around, he finds a new wing and stuff. It would be really great to have that. I've actually met Nathan Lowell. I'm friends with him on Facebook. That's very interesting. And so I checked IMDb, nothing yet, but I'm rooting for you.
He's a very good writer and 100% indie.
Yep. And he has other series that starts with Quarter Share. That is a great science fiction series that would make an awesome science fiction TV series. Really great, really great.
More competence porn.
Yep, that's right. That's the whole premise in there is just really great stuff. Great stuff. What's next for you, Dave?
Oh gosh, I was so busy talking. I gotta look now. So many choices. Yeah, I rated my collection before I joined the meeting. Well, I don't think you can go wrong with this one. Delving onto the fantasy side again, this is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson.
Oh yeah, you have a whole army of people saying the same thing. I'm sure.
I think it's doable as a film. It would be just as interesting as a series. There's 3 books in this trilogy, and then there's follow-on trilogies featuring different characters. I know that Sanderson has licensed most of his books are set in the same fantasy universe. I know that he has licensed those rights for like $500 million. So somebody in Hollywood is aware of him. This would make an excellent property and be a great first start. It's cinematic.
It's within his reach.
Yeah.
To just produce it himself.
Yeah.
You know, he could probably check his sofa cushions and come up with an extra $200 million to to spend on a movie.
Run a Kickstarter. His last, for those who don't know, his last Kickstarter for a mysterious series of 4 books he sprung on everybody, made $41 million.
In 28 days.
Yeah, for books he hadn't written yet.
No,
Oh my
he
God.
had written them.
Oh, he had written them. Okay.
Yeah, they were pandemic stories that he had written. But he didn't let on anything about them except that they were new books, original stories. And of course, he's got some of my money.
Yeah.
I did the level that I'll get 4 audiobooks out of that when their audiobooks are available. But yeah, Brandon Sanderson, man, he's one of the big ones. Once he breaks into cinema or television, it's gonna break big
If they do it right.
if they
All right,
do it right.
I'll close out, hint, hint, I'll close out our secondary author with one that I came up with that I've read a long time ago, the Murderbot series,
yeah.
Martha Wells.
Oh yeah, they'd be really great as a series.
Yeah, last one I read was Fugitive Telemetry, if that's how you say it. But it would just make a very cool series. Detective robot. This one was about a murder that took place in a hangar. And it's just very contained. It's very, what's the word? You can swallow it in one bite. You know what I mean? They're short. And so they could make good short little episodes that you could just follow along. I think it'd be a great thing.
Yeah,
Cool.
there's like 4 or 5 novellas, I think,
Yeah.
and a novel. So there's plenty of material to work with.
So the last one I got on my list is a book called 14 by Peter Klein.
Hmm.
This is it's kind of Lovecraftian, kind of a steampunk story about this building that is actually a giant machine that keeps Cthulhu at bay, basically.
Nice.
It keeps the universe in balance, so a giant portal doesn't open and we all get eaten by giant monsters. But it's a great story. It's a self-contained small little story, and about this building that is kind of reminiscent of Ghostbusters. This building that was built for a specific purpose, besides having apartments in it. And it's a really great story, great book. If you want to read the book, it's a great book, and it's very Lovecraftian and kind of steampunk, set in the modern times, and it's a really fun story.
All right, my next one, The Lost Fleet. Jack Campbell, otherwise known as John Henry, is the guy's real name.
Yeah.
The premise is that the Alliance, the good guys, and the Syndics, the bad guys, have been fighting this vicious space war for over a century. And the good guys are losing. And accidentally, they come across the scene of an old battle. A lot of wreckage is circling around a black hole. And they pick up a distress signal. And it turns out that one of the great leaders of the Alliance is actually alive. He was thought lost and killed in that long ago battle, but he's still alive. And everybody looks up to him. He's a legend. He's like beyond a legend. He's like an inspiration to people. And he has to figure out how to live up to what people think of him and actually turn the war around. And win battles where they were losing battles before and stuff. It's a really good sort of becoming the leader you need to be type of story. Awesome space combat, but not just space combat. It's like tactics that you could sort of understand and believe in, and believe that somebody is doing this. This is the first of a 6-book series, and then there were some follow-on books after that. I think this would make an incredible streaming series for the right streaming services.
I really love the characters in that story, particularly the man versus the legend and how he acts.
Jack Geary.
Yeah, it's a great story, and it would convey very well.
Yeah.
All right, so my next book is my own book. All right.
Yeah, so we're gonna go around. We're each gonna pick a book that we've written that we'd love to see as a movie.
I always say that I love all my books equally until the house is burning down and the last copies are all on the table and I have time to grab one. And then you don't love all your books equally. So in my case, if the house was burning down and there was no other digital copies anywhere of all my books, whatever, blah, 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 I would grab Starborn, which is my science fiction novel. And it is, I think it'd make a great movie. It has a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy type vibes where it's got action, but a lot of humor. It's got a great original concept, and it actually already had a script written for it by an independent filmmaker who just read the manuscript and fell in love with it. He produced a full script that, you know, I read, and it was, he stayed pretty true to the novel, and it was really great writing, great dialogue, you know, just all around. Of course, the funding to get that produced hasn't come through, and so it's not been produced, but I would love to see it produced one day as a film. So Starborn, that's my pick.
So for me, of all the novels I've written, the one I'd like to see made as a movie first is Virtues of the Vicious. I have been told by many readers that this was very cinematic, that people could really see this book as they were reading it. It's got a really strong female protagonist, good character arcs, lots of twists and turns, and lots of action adventure, and hijinks. So if I could somehow, you know, see to get that movie produced, that would I would just love that.
Nice. Hope it happens for you, man.
Dave?
All right, for me, Flash by Night by yours truly. A mixed group of mercenaries and museum curators travels behind enemy lines to retrieve paintings, a priceless cache of paintings that was stolen 30 years ago. All they have to do, I have to read this. All they have to do is infiltrate behind enemy lines, grab the goodies, elude their relentless pursuers, and escape two armies. What could possibly go wrong? It's sort of like Monuments Men, set in the future, about 100 years from now. I think it's very cinematic. I think it would make a cool heist movie with a lot of futuristic tech.
Cool. You know, I'm in line to go see it.
There you go. Yeah, I'll buy a ticket.
So any final thoughts on this? This was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
My list could go on and on, to be honest. I just, you know.
Got more that I didn't even mention. I just went through my list. I just went through my library and went, you and you and you and me. And I didn't even pick some of the ones that Marty did that are on my shelves.
That's right.
Are also awesome.
All right, guys. Another great episode. And that's it for time. And we'll see you again next week.